All right, we testing 1, 2, 3. Does that sound good? Is that okay? All right, I guess that'll be okay. What's going on, Grounders? What's going on, everybody? I know this won't be the longest stream in the entire world because I am recovering from a wisdom tooth being taken out of my mouth. So we'll see how this stream goes. Hopefully it is okay. I'm gonna turn this to a little bit low so that you guys don't have to hear some weird stuff. But anyway, let's say hi to all the Grounders. Troy Mackey, Little Run of OP, B Baller, Brazilian X Skills, Big John 6458. Good to see all of y'all in the chat. Thank you for joining the Grounders tonight on another episode of Unintentional Grounding Live. We're talking 2018. I was about to say 2017. 2018 Atlanta Falcons schedule release. You're getting it here first, folks. If you probably already glanced at your phone somewhere and saw it somewhere, I am sorry, but we're breaking it down right here, right now. So go tell all your friends, family, folks. Share the link to this video, this live stream right now with all your Falcons friends and fam, because we're about to get real lit. Now, of course, we had some leaks today. I'm going to be talking about the press conference as well that we had earlier today. But we had some leaks today on what the schedule would be like. I saw a Thanksgiving game against the Saints. I saw our first game of the year against the Eagles. And so on and so forth. A couple leaks here and there within the division and things of that nature. We started seeing some things kind of get laid down. We saw the Packers late in the year and so on and so forth. So here is the 2018 NFL season for the Atlanta Falcons and the schedule that has been released as of right now. David Wright and Falcon Freak, good to see you guys in the chat as well. Week 1, September 6th. I believe this is a Thursday night game. Let me take a look at here. Let me take a look here. See if I can kind of June, July, August, September 6th, Thursday night. Start off the season. Philadelphia Eagles. We are on the road. I cannot believe this. I cannot believe this. And look. You always want to take on the Super Bowl defending champions to test them out and see how well they have fine-tuned their team through the offseason and up to this particular point. Wilbert Barrett, good to see you, my friend. Run IMC, good to see you. Nate Ellington, good to see you, man. Falcons fan 408, Christopher Perkins, good to see all y'all. I don't want to go too crazy because there's still a wisdom tooth on my right jaw on the top that's still healing. So I don't want to go too freaky. But we've got national game, guys. First week will be the first game to be played. For what it looks like, it's 8:20 game on a Thursday night in the first week of the season. Falcons fan DBN, good to see you. And then week 2, 1 o'clock game on Fox at home against the Carolina Panthers. Yeah. All right. Get right into the division. I didn't like last year where we were playing the division real late. But I like this. I like immediately in the first 2 to 3 weeks getting the division and starting to play them hardcore. So this is September 16th. Week 2. So we get that 10-day, like, kind of bye week, not kind of bye week. Get that extra 3 days, extra 2 days. So Carolina, we get to play them at home, week 2. Week 3. We get to play against the New Orleans Saints at home. Back-to-back at-home games. And against the division. So those are 2 immediately important division games, in-conference games, against rivals, and we will have played Philly at the beginning. If our team has not been tested at this particular point, I don't know what has tested us. So that's amazing. That's awesome. Week 1, week 2, week 3. Bam, bam, bam. It's another 1 o'clock game for y'all. Then, our third back-to-back-to-back home game, September 30th, week 4, versus the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals. All of y'all in the chat. If you haven't said hi already, if you haven't said hello, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. I promise I don't bite. But we play against Cincinnati. So I'll give you my final predictions of how we kind of will set up and how the team will look as we go. But week 4, we're at home against Cincinnati. We'll have played back-to-back-to-back home games. We'll have tested ourselves against the Saints, the Panthers, and Philly in the first week. So we could be 2-2 at this point. We could be 3-1 at this point. We could be 1-3 at this point. Don't know, and I'm not going to guesstimate until the end of this. All right. Week 5, we go out of town. Another 1 o'clock game. So we'll have 4 weeks of 1 o'clock games. So everything will be in the norm for all the Falcons fans. And we'll be playing in Pittsburgh against the Pittsburgh Steelers. 1 o'clock Fox game, week 5. So, all right, okay. Tough outing to begin with. Philadelphia won the Super Bowl. Carolina was second place in the division. New Orleans won our division, and they almost got there. Cincinnati doesn't seem to be too much of a problem, but maybe, I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's at home, so at least it's not in Cincinnati where it's tough to play. And then we go to Pittsburgh, another team that took care of business, was able to get to the postseason, and was thumped by the Jaguars. So, Rose Stackson, what's going on? And Grande, what's going on? Good to see you. So, now here we are, week 6. So, just a reminder, week 1 through week 5 is at Philadelphia, and then at home for Carolina, New Orleans, Cincinnati, and then week 5 at Pittsburgh. All right? Week 6 versus Tampa Bay. Week 6 versus Tampa Bay. We're back home against Tampa. Another 1 o'clock game. All right? Another 1 o'clock game. So, all our home games are at 1 o'clock. Think about that for a second. All our home games, 1 o'clock. So make sure you get there about an hour and a half to 2 hours early. You know that Atlanta traffic. You guys understand. And if you're staying home, make sure you have all your fixings ready by that time. Super easy. Week 6, we play against Tampa. Week 7, 8/15, October 26th. Or excuse me, October 22nd. Excuse me. Monday Night Football against the New York Giants at home. Monday Night Football, Week 7, October 26th, against the New York Giants at home. Not in New York, at home. That is going to be a great game. Because that could be our confidence-building game. We don't know what will be up to that particular point. And then guess what, guys? Week 8, we got a bye. Right smack dab in the middle of the season, we got a bye. Plop. Boom. I would have liked it to be week 9, week 10, which would have given us some more time to kind of recuperate. But week 8's just fine. It's fine with me. Brandon Williams, what's going on, my man? Week 9, we fly out to Washington for a 1 o'clock game. Okay. Not a problem. That's November 4th. Week 10, November 11th. 1 o'clock game in Cleveland. All right. Okay. Not the middle of the schedule opens up after our bye with Washington and Cleveland. setting up pretty nice. Setting up pretty nice, at least from what I'm looking at. I'm looking at this particular bit. Looking at the first bit, we got most of our division. We got the Giants, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Philadelphia. And then the next part of our after the bye week at week 8, we've got to play against Washington and Cleveland. And then we're at home week 11, November 18th versus Dallas. And that's everybody's dream inside this chat right here, is to whoop up on Dallas. Now, Voch Lombardi is probably going to say bunch of schniz, and Law Nation going to say a lot of schniz on their YouTubes about the schedule release and how the Atlanta Falcons in week 11, they're going to knock them off. That is hilarious. And I'll bet another bucket of wings, and he still owes me a bucket of wings. I'll bet another bucket of wings that we beat him again. God damn it. Week 12, November 22nd. Let's pull this up real quick. Week 12, November 22nd is a Thursday night. We got back-to-back Thursday night games, boys. Well, not back-to-back, but later in the year. New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. This is setting up terrible. New Orleans Saints in New Orleans, Thursday night game, 8:20 NBC, week 12, November 22nd. That doesn't feel good. That's that, I really wish this was a 1 p.m. game in New Orleans, not prime time, because primetime games in New Orleans always scare the Beetlejuice out of me. Don't say that 2 more times. So, yeah, that ain't fun. That ain't fun. But happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. All right. Week 13, December 2nd. At home versus Baltimore. All right, okay. The home schedule's not looking terrible. And it's laid out pretty well for us at the beginning of the year. Towards the end of the year, some of our saving grace games against teams that we can beat. We can beat these guys. It's going to be a little easier for us. Week 13, December 2nd against Baltimore at home, 1 p.m. game on CBS. Then we got to travel to Green Bay in week 14, December 9th, for a 1 p.m. game. It's going to be cold. It could snow. The elements could be against us. And unless we're playing 100% football and we've got no injuries, we're not banged up, then it's going to be a tough one. Not a lot of times. I think it's all some 14-1 or 15-0 for Aaron Rodgers in games at home in this particular week or something like that. It's something stupid. Anyway, week 15, we fly back home after this Green Bay game, get to warm up. December 16th, week 15 against Arizona back home in a 1 p.m. game. Magic. Just absolute magic. Beautiful. Love it. I absolutely love that. Arizona game late in the season. That team might be not playing for anything at that point. They could have a rookie QB struggling or a rookie QB trying to get into his stride and we can get in his head. Because I don't believe it's going to be Carson Palmer, Nicholas Dunlap, and Ariana. Good to see all of you guys in here. If the team is still standing after that, then the Atlanta Falcons will play on December 23rd, week 16 against Carolina in Carolina. That could be a huge division game. It's going to be tough for us. We could be looking for a title at that point. We could be battling the heap of battle for the playoff spots. We could be in the thick of it for our own division. We don't know at that point. That'll just be crazy. And then week 17, December 30th, 1 p.m. on Fox against Tampa Bay in Tampa, which I'm thinking that is going to be the game that I'm going to go drive out to go see Atlanta. If we're in the playoff hunt, we're outside the playoff hunt, we've clinched the division, we're fighting for second or third. No matter what this team is doing at that point, I'm super excited to be there December 30th at the Tampa Bay game at Raymond James Stadium. Said I wasn't going to go there anymore because Tampa fans treated me like dirt. I will go there one more time. Maybe the Tampa fans won't be there in droves. Maybe their team will already be way out of it. We don't know. We have no idea how that's going to shake out. So, just going to run through this one more time and then talk about the press conference, because we're about a week out from the draft. I'm going to talk about some of the notes that I took down from that 30-minute press conference, and I won't take too long on those. But running through this schedule one more time, week 1 at Philadelphia on a Thursday night. Week 2 at home against Carolina on a 1 p.m. game. Week 3 at home against New Orleans, 1 p.m. game. Week 4 at home against Cincinnati, 1 p.m. game. Week 5 at Pittsburgh, 1 p.m. game. Week 6 at home versus Tampa, 1 p.m. game. Week 7 versus the Giants on a Monday night football, baby. 8:15. Bye week, week 8. Thanks, Ariana. I appreciate it. Week 9 at Washington, 1 p.m. game. Week 11 at home versus Dallas, 8:20 game. Or no, excuse me, 1 p.m. game. Week 12, November 22nd, at New Orleans for an 8:20 game. That's a Thursday night game. Week 13 versus Baltimore, 1 p.m. game. That's at home. Week 14 at Green Bay for a 1 p.m. game. Week 15 at home against Arizona, 1 p.m. game. Week 16 at Carolina, 1 p.m. game. And week 17, December 30th, at Tampa, 1 p.m. game. I should be there. So let's break down this Thomas Dimitroff, Dan Quinn press conference that I definitely want to get into right here because it was really interesting. You guys need to stick around for this. This was crazy. And I will talk to you guys more about the schedule release a little bit later. A couple things that I wanted to break down about this was Thomas Dimitroff was very, very open, jubilant, funny, off the cuff. He wasn't Thomas Dimitroff of keeping things kind of walled up and block you off and type of thing, but he told him right off the bat, I can't answer every question. That would just be ridiculous. We all know that. Can't answer every little thing. But I will try to answer what I can. And that's what was exciting to me, because I was like, Thomas usually doesn't open up. He doesn't let you know what's going on. He usually keeps things pretty close to the chest. But here's a quote for Thomas Dimitroff that you guys got to hear this. You guys got to hear this. Thomas Dimitroff said today there are a number of directions that they could go with their first round pick this year. Quote, there are a number of positions that we're looking at more this year than other years. I feel like in other years, we'd be really honed in potentially on one or two. And we have a number of positions that we think can really benefit us at 26. In our minds, it gives us an opportunity to consider. Of course, we'll always consider moving up, but also the idea of moving back as well, because we feel that there are a number of good players at 26 and beyond. And last season, the Falcons traded up for Tat McKinley from 26, only moved up two spots or something like that to go get Tat. And Alonzo Quintarez, what's going on? Or Curas? I'll just say Alonzo. Alonzo, what's going on, my man? Good to see you in here. I think that's interesting that Thomas Dimitroff talked about a trade down. You don't usually hear him with those words coming out of his mouth. And I also like the idea of trading up. But after this press conference, I have less of a percentage thought process of the Atlanta Falcons actually trading up now. I thought it was more about 50, 60% that the Falcons would trade up anywhere from 10 picks to 4 picks, somewhere in that range. And now I have like a, 40% chance now. 40% chance that the Falcons will actually trade up. The things that have to drop for the Falcons to trade up would have to be most of the quarterbacks going early, and the better running backs going early, and some wideouts going early too. And that would be the only way that the Falcons would trade up, is if a lot of offense was to go early. Some offensive linemen, quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs were to take a lot of the spots early in the draft, and I just don't see that happening. So a couple of notes from Dimitroff to Quinn when they were taking some questions. He said, "I love to be clear on what we need," and that brought me up a few thoughts on that particular quote. I love to be clear on what we need. Well, Quinn and Dimitroff have been very clear on what they have wanted for this team and wanted to bring to this team. And it's kind of funny to look back at Mike Smith, and the number one thing that keeps coming through everybody's mouths when we talk about drafts from Mike Smith's day and age with the Falcons from 2008 and 2014, or 2015, when new coaching staff came in. The thing I have to take away from that, and I keep hearing all the time, was there was very little clear communication on what the Falcons needed in the draft, and that made Thomas Dimitroff look bad. I also saw a couple of posts on the Falcons message boards, Reddit, as well as DBN, Rise Up Nation, a couple other Facebook places as well, where people were saying Thomas Dimitroff is not good at acquiring talent. But isn't that not the job of not only the head coach but also the GM? When the two teams coming together, or the two coaches, the GM and the head coach, are coming together and making these selections together. And I think the biggest thing from the Mike Smith era was that Smith was basically putting the whole job on Dimitroff. That's not how you use your GM. That's just not how you use him. Your GM has to go out there and manage the cap, and then manage the people that are going out there and looking over the scouts and making sure he brings that information back to the coaching staff. With a hands-on coach like Dan Quinn, and being very crystal clear about what they have desired for this team and what they're looking for, and not just giving someone a blind grocery list and just saying, okay, just go into the draft, go get me some people. Quinn has been very hands-on, and it has taken a lot of the pressure off of Dimitroff. So, again, we can reverse this role and say, doesn't Bill Belichick bring in so many great talents to this team? Well, what is his GM doing then? Well, his GM is going out to the scouting department, and he's taking care of that. He's taking care of the cap, and he's relying with Bill Belichick on what they need to look at during the draft, and together they're making those picks. That's the same way that Dimitroff and Quinn have done what they've done. So that's just kind of my thought on that. I thought it was interesting that it's very clear what they want, and when they're clear about what they want, Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff draft great talent in multiple rounds. Another quote that I thought was interesting: there are some defensive ends that could play defensive tackle. Whoa. What do you mean by that, Dimitroff? And then Dan Quinn went on to say that there are some positional guys in this draft that could be moved inside, and vice versa, more in this year than any other year. And I go, so wait a minute, hold on. Who could that be? Who could be in the Falcons' radar that's a defensive end that could potentially be a defensive tackle for the Falcons? Who's there in that spot, in that range? First round, second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round. Well, no fifth round, but you get what I'm saying. Who could be there that the Falcons could move inside? Contavious Street? Jalen Holmes? Maybe Jake Martin? Keyshawn Freeman? RJ McIntosh? These are all guys that I could see. Chad Thomas, we really haven't talked to him, but there is a guy that named Chad Thomas who plays defensive end, but then he gets pushed into 3-tech. It's just interesting to hear that and makes me think, there could be some serious surprise picks in this coming draft. Serious surprise picks for two reasons. Number one, that they're looking at guys and going, how would we use that guy? That's the fabled Dan Quinn thing to say, right? All of you in the chat know this. Everybody that's watching knows this fact, that Dan Quinn has always said, we always look at guys, how would we feature that guy? How would he work in our system? How will we be able to use him? Will Sand coming in. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof. Good to see you in the chat, my dude. How would we use these guys together? And I like that mentality. How would we use that guy? He plays defensive end for this college, or he played defensive end for his other team. Wouldn't it be interesting if we put him at defensive tackle? Because I think that's how he would work better in our defense or our offense. And it works. It usually works. We had a solid group of guys last year before we lost Poe and Claiborne and a couple other pieces went away. But we had a solid group. It wasn't anything to write home about, but it was a solid group. And that solid group had a lot of guys that were playing linebacker, that were playing defensive end, and defensive tackles playing defensive end, and defensive end playing defensive tackle, and vice versa, and so on and so forth. Defensive ends playing outside linebacker. So I just thought that was an interesting thought. I thought that everybody in here would be like, let's open our minds. What defensive ends in this draft could play defensive tackle? Go to your homework. There's your homework for tonight. Go find some defensive ends that could play defensive tackle and have they talk to the Falcons. That's interesting. What happens if we draft Taven Bryan? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We're only a week away. The next quote that I thought was really interesting was a reporter asked them, how many defensive tackles do you think are available in that first round? And Thomas Dimitroff said something that almost made me jump out of my goddamn chair. And here's why. He goes, there are about 8 first-round defensive tackles we could draft. Now, if I count on my hands and toes, what defensive tackles were left? If we're talking about the big 5. We're talking about the big 5. We're talking about Vita Vea. We're talking about Daron Payne. We're talking about Tevin Bryan. We're talking about Mo Hurst. And then there's a 5th in there, right? I'm missing someone. Who am I missing in the big 5? There's one more, right? Oh, a lot of people were saying that the kid out of Stanford, Harrison Phillips, was part of the big 5. So let's just include him in the big 5, right? So that means that there are 3 other defensive tackles that the Falcons consider first-round talent. And then he said something that I almost just, again, I jumped out of my seat and was like, Voch Lombardi, Law Nation, I don't care who you're from. The moment you hear this, you're going to roll over in your bed or grave or wherever you're at. He said, there is some second-round talent that we consider first-round talent that will drop into the second round. And that had me almost flip my table and go, see, positional draft round etiquette does not exist. It's team to team. Every team will view a player better or worse. They'll view them in a different round or a different light. So talking about any of these defensive tackles, the Falcons considered about 8 guys first round worthy. And they said, and if we don't feel that the value for our team is there to grab that particular defensive tackle, we think he might be able to drop to our second round pick. And that we cannot pass on a particular player, which is bull honky. That's smoke. That is the biggest smoke bomb you've ever heard. Thomas Dimitroff said, we'll take that guy over the other dude. And I think that's baloney. But I love everything else that he said. He basically just debunked that certain guys by the draft community are supposed to be labeled second or third round based on their talent. And Thomas Dimitroff and Dan Quinn backed my idea up. And it's probably not my idea. I'm probably phonetically listening to their minds outside. And they have already had this idea for so long. But my thought process and getting backed up by someone in the know has stated that we don't draft because the draft nicks tell us that a particular guy is worth something in some round. We draft based on the talent working for our needs. Shit. No way. Okay. And the last note that I wanted to, Dan Quinn could develop a second round player into a pro player. Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure. So here's the deal. The last quote, which could be smoke as well, but he was firm in his belief and his voice had much conviction in it. Reporter asked, is Tico for sale? And he said, Tevin Coleman is not on the trade block at the moment. We usually don't trade players on the day of. So unless Tevin Coleman gets traded in the next 7 days or so, by this time next week, if he gets traded, then we will know that that is actually a system and a trend that we should all, as fans, should follow. The Falcons don't trade players during the draft. It's before or after, no buts, no ifs, no ands, no nothing. So those were my four notes that I took away from the press conference today. And so now my thoughts on the schedule that I kind of want to talk about the schedule one more time. I went through the schedule kind of being like, oh, this is the schedule. But now I really want to be like, okay, here's a breakdown of the schedule and how I feel like this could go. So we got that bye week, week 8. So that's good. Almost about the middle of the season or so. But I am looking at the schedule going, okay, we got to come right into this season and play the defending champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, in Philly. And you know what, man? I would love to punch them in the mouth, but this team right now and the talent that it's got on it right at this very moment, I'm going to say that's an L. Go ahead and bite your L. Take it. And it'll be a learning experience. And I think we can move on from that going, okay, we got our L out of the way. We had to go immediately on the road against the Eagles. I'd love to come out with a W. I'd love to come out with a W. Keyshawn Daniel, what's going on, my man? And Shadow Falcon, good to see you. Edric Bisher, what's going on, my man? I don't think that will go right into Philly. And unless they have the biggest Super Bowl hangover of all time, I don't think we just go out and immediately beat the Eagles. Wentz will be back. Maybe that's a different quarterback and a different mindset and how things will work. But the first game of the year, I don't think that we're gonna get that dub. I don't think we're gonna get that dub the first game of the year. Second game of the year, we go right home. We go right back home. We play against Carolina. I think that's a more winnable game. We know the devil better than we know the devil of Philly. We know the devil in Carolina. We know Cam. We know what we've got to do to be able to keep him condensed. We know what we've got to do to keep him contained. I know that Philly game is doable. Wilson. I know that Philly game is doable. But I think it's even more doable against Carolina. I think that's where we go 1-1. At least in my eyes. All right, on to our next game, which is also at home against the New Orleans Saints. And again, this is at home. We've been very good at staying at home and beating up on the competition. So I think it's a 1 p.m. game or so or something like that. We beat up on New Orleans. We can do it. I think we can beat New Orleans at home. Now, back in NOLA, I think it's a much tougher game. I think it's a much tougher game in NOLA because the crowd's different. There's more at stake, and it's later in the year. But first 3 weeks, teams are trying to figure out who they are. And if we can go ahead and get that L out of the way in Philly, beat Carolina, and then go beat New Orleans, we're 2-1, and we're feeling pretty good about ourselves because maybe we don't lose that Eagles game by much. And maybe we escape that Eagles game with a win. But one way or another, and I'm saying that we lose, we can come back and go against Carolina at home, New Orleans at home, and then have Cincy at home. So we have Cincinnati at home, who's going to have their QB problems, their offensive line problems, and man, their wide receivers are doo-doo. So that is something that we can take advantage of. No, A.J. Green's not doo-doo, but I'm saying that the rest of that core is not great. Did we have a better record on the road than at home last season? I can't remember. I cannot remember. If you can give me that information, that'd be great. Then we take on Pittsburgh. Away. This is going to be tough because Pitt's going to play us well. Le'Veon, Roethlisberger maybe back there. Antonio Brown. They're going to be gunning for us. Their defense is going to be playing lights out. I know that this team can play Pitt tough. Will we have enough of a defense to really be able to punch them in the mouth? I don't know. You saw when the Jags got pressure and when they covered their guys, they were able to win that game by giving their offense time to win. Giving them the ball back. So, just my opinion, but I think that we can win this game in Pittsburgh. And if I am counting this correctly, we're 4-1 by my notes, losing to Philly, beating Carolina at home, beating New Orleans at home, beating Cincinnati at home, and beating Pittsburgh away. That is my prediction for the first 4 weeks. Now, next 4 weeks. We got Tampa. I think that Tampa, Tampa away? No, Tampa at home. So we can beat Tampa. We can. They're not even a problem. Tampa is so discombobulated right now. If their quarterback situation was a little more stable, I would be a little more worried. But our defense and the way that we play, even without Don Taripo and Adrian Claiborne, we can win. So that would be 5-1 to me, and that's one of the best records in the NFC if I'm counting correctly. Then week 7, we got the Giants at home on Monday Night Football. And this would be the test. Because if the Falcons win on Monday night, the taste buds of every NFL analyst and everyone around, not like we really need them to give us praise, but the taste buds of everybody else out there will change about the Atlanta Falcons if we beat the Giants at home and get to 6-1. And people will be like, that's the 6-1 Atlanta Falcons. That is the 6-1 Atlanta Falcons. That is something. That's something right there. Then we go on a bye week. Week 8. We turn around week 9 for a 1 o'clock game at in Washington, which is another easy win game. Another easy win game. Alex Smith will make it a little bit tougher, but I think that team is just still not the best. They really aren't. They really aren't that good. But this is a team that we can take advantage of in the Redskins. Josh Norman's going to be out there talking his talk and try to walk his walk. Let him be on Julio Jones. We'll see how that goes. Let him be on Julio. We'll see how that goes. So that right there makes us what 8-1, right? 9 weeks. No, it would be 7-1, right? Hold on, let me recount. I lost my train of thought here. 0-1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6-1 with the bye. 7-1 with the Redskins. 8-1 after we smacked the Browns. Sorry for the Browns fans, but unless you guys are really, really improved, then I'm pretty sure we're going to go to Cleveland and we're going to at least 10 points, a 10-point win, maybe 14. We'll win by a good margin if we just play solid football. Sorry to the Browns fans. I'm sorry. I feel your pain. If we weren't playing you this year, that would be great. But you guys have a lot to prove. If you can prove that to me during the year, then I will change that. But otherwise, playing in Cleveland, in November? Yeah, in early November doesn't scare me at all. They're one of maybe about 4 teams that I'm not scared of in the NFL. That could really change very quickly because that's 10 weeks in? That could really change for me. But right now, I'm not scared of it. I'm not. So that's a dub. Then we got to play the Cowboys. This is going to be tough, man. It's at home. But if Dak and Zeke and this offensive line is good enough to play, and they go get themselves a light-up wide receiver, and they got some guys in there that can catch some balls, and their defense can play stout, this will be a tough game. This won't be an easy one. But I'm calling it a dub. I'm calling it a dub at home. Then we go to New Orleans on Thursday Night Football for Thanksgiving. And I just got a bad feeling in my pit of my stomach, man. I got a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. This is where another L's coming. And Nola's going to be out there. Deuce Wyndham. Go check him out on his channel, Deuce Wyndham, on YouTube. He breaks down Saints stuff. I'm going to be on his channel talking about Falcons draft pick. Go check us out next Thursday at 11 o'clock at night. I will have a time slot on his channel. Talk about the Falcons pick. And I just got a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I always get this bad feeling whenever we go to New Orleans, and I hate it. I hate it. This is where I put an L. Put an L here. 2 teams that will have beaten us will be a playoff teams or caliber of playoff teams. Eagles and Saints. Then we play against the Ravens at home. I will do a grading the 2018 draft picks video. Yeah, trap game the Browns. I think the trap game is probably Cincinnati or Washington. Those could be trap games for us. Going away to somebody else's house, and we're just trying to, get in, get out kind of thing, thinking about the bye week, and we lose one of those. It's like that Cardinals game or Kansas City game from a couple years ago. But the Ravens, they'll be an interesting team. They'll be an interesting team. I'll put a dub on this one. I'll put a dub on the Ravens. Ravens fans are gonna hate that, but I you know what, man, I'm gonna put a dub on that one. And then going to Green Bay, I'm gonna have us lose that one. I'm gonna have us losing to Green Bay, probably in the cold, probably in the snow. It's December. Early December, but it's December nonetheless. Maybe some flurries, maybe a shower, something stupid. Outdoors in their stadium. I'd love to come away with an L on them, or excuse me, a W, but I think it's going to be an L. And then we got the Cards at home. That could be interesting. That could be an interesting game because that could be a trap game. The Cards could be good. Their defense could be stout. We could have a hard time running on them. We could have a really hard time trying to get to their quarterback because their offensive line is underrated. I'm going to put an L on that one too. That I feel is a true trap game really late in the season. Then we go to Carolina. I think we sweep Carolina and Tampa Bay. So you know my 2 last games are going to be dubs. So from what I've got right here, I got us 12-4. I think that's a bit too high. I think there's definitely some games in here that we could lose. Cowboys, Redskins, Ravens, Cards. So I want to say, without being too biased, I'm going to take my bias down and I'm going to drop it just for a second. I'm going to say that the Falcons go 11-5 with one other trap game in there. There may be a game that we lose in there that we shouldn't, like a Carolina game where we don't sweep the entire division. Maybe we just sweep the Bucks. Matt Ryan hasn't lost against the Cards since Kurt Warner 08 wildcard game. Correct. My bad. It was the Kansas City game. I don't know what I'm thinking. It was a Kansas City game where Eric Berry intercepted the ball from us. But I'm going to say 11-5 with a third place schedule. Grind it out. We got a lot of our tougher games during the beginning of the season, and then we got a lot of average to above average games towards the end. So that's my thoughts on the schedule. I like the schedule. I like this. We got several primetime games. We got several sets of games at home. I like our stretches of home games where we get to play the tougher competition at home. Christopher Perkins just said it in the chat. 11-5, 10-6 is no problem for this Falcons team for this schedule. It's a third place schedule, but it all depends on how well this offense can gel. We know that that's going to be a problem, and we also need to know how well the replacements for the defensive acquisitions that we lost, how the replacements, the acquisitions in this draft, and whoever else we pick up outside of this draft can affect this team and push it forward. So in my mind, 11-5, 12-4 would be our highest. And then our lowest would be maybe 10-6, 9-7 if for some reason our offense is really just struggling and our defense has a down year for some bizarre reason. But this is a fighting defense. This is a fighting offense. I think they're going to make a bounce back this coming year, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And I truly think even if the defense takes a slight step back or just stays at where it is right now with whatever additions that we grabbed from this draft, I think we're going to be better off. So I'm going to go ahead and open up for the last 5 minutes or so. I'm going to open up to questions. Anything that you guys want to talk about, any questions you guys have in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and turn my attention to the chat box. And I see, I'm going to take a quick swig of water here. Woo! And I'm going to go ahead and get to this first question right here. Lieutenant, what is your thoughts on Gesicki at 26? I don't like Gesicki as much as I like Ian Thomas or Hayden Hurst. I think it's a little too high for any of these tight ends. I think all the tight ends go somewhere around round 2 to round 3. You might see one tight end, a Hayden Hurst, or maybe a Dallas Goedert going in the late 20s. But I don't think a tight end gets taken in the teens. That would just be a waste of a draft pick, in my opinion. That doesn't mean that it won't happen, but I don't see a team with a need so much at tight end with all the rest of this talent up there. It would just be kind of a waste. Fire Falcon, good to see you in the chat, my friend. 11-5. I think that you're dead on. That's my thoughts. I think most of the guys in here 11-5, 10-6. If you haven't said hi, by the way, or if you have a question about the Atlanta Falcons or have something that you want to bounce thoughts off of me or any of the guys in the chat, and then have me kind of talk to you about that as well, please in the chat go hit me up. I would love to get some of your questions. Will Seen says, Lieutenant, Vita Vea or Tevin Bryan? If Vita Vea was at 26, I'd take him instantly. But I think Tevin Bryan has some versatility on the edges, whereas Vita Vea has the most versatility in the interior. So if you want to go 3 tech, 2 tech, or you want a 1 tech or 0, you're going to get Vita Vea. If you want 3 tech and going outwards to 4, 5, and maybe even, 5.5, 6, you can go get Tevin Bryan and have him going and doing stuff. Jason Ty, what's going on, my man? Good to see you. Lieutenant, do you think a down the field wide receiver in the 2nd or 3rd is possible? I truly do. I truly do think that one of these guys, and one of the dudes that I'm looking at is the Pettis kid. The Pettis kid from Washington. We've been linked to him. We brought him in for a workout. Let me look at this and see if it was a private workout because I have the whole list up here. It was some type of workout. It must have been a on the field workout outside of the club. But we did work him out. Other guys that we did work out were Deshaun Hamilton, who I really like as a route runner, a bigger guy. Maybe needs to work on his hands just a little bit, but best route runner in the draft period. Brandon Bean from Grand Valley State. Javon Wims from Georgia at the local pro day. Vincent Smythe from Limestone, who I really like. Richie James from Middle Tennessee. Jonah Treneman from BYU. Ray Bolden. Deontay Burnett, who I really like as a downfield burner. We just kind of met him at his pro day. Deshaun Hamilton from Penn State. Oh, I already said that name. That's already on here. Jake Winke, who is from South Dakota State University, which I really like his size. If you ever go check out his videos, very interesting. Kiki Corti from Texas Tech, we brought in for a private workout as part of the top 30. Every team is allowed to have 30 visits within their own complex, and Kiki Corti was one of those guys. Dante Pettis, who I really, really like, and Dorian Miller from Carson Newman at our local pro day. So those are some of the guys that kind of came in and worked for us at wide receiver. Go take a look at any of those. Link in the description of this video for that list that I just updated not too long ago. Young King checking in. What did I miss? I revealed the entire schedule and also had thoughts on the press conference today. So you can always just replay this video over again. Fire Falcon says, this is also my first time commenting in one of your chats, but I've been subscribed to you for a while now. Keep up the good work, bro. Thanks, Fire Falcon. I really appreciate that, man. We're working hard over here, and we will be at the draft, by the way. In a week. I'm getting on a plane here in Orlando at 6 in the morning, flying out to Dallas because of all of your Patreon support and all of the donations that you guys made here on YouTube, and all the money that I've made here on YouTube. Thanks to you guys, I've been able to scrounge that money up, buy some plane tickets. I'm going to be flying out to Dallas, staying with Vach Lombardi. If you know anything about his channel, we're staying together. We're going to be hanging out. And we're going to be hanging out with a couple of the guys that are doing channels there, doing a barbecue grill, and then breaking stuff down live here on this channel and others, and also making calls into other channels and giving our thoughts. So definitely check out some of the links and some of the stuff that I'm going to be sending on not only Instagram, the Patreon, the Twitter, the Facebook, but also on here as well. Definitely be locked on to what we're going to be doing over these next couple of days. And the weeks leading after, as we will do a bunch of videos on the guys that we're drafting. Let's get into, will Jake Matthews make his first Pro Bowl this year? Man, to be honest with you, Falcons fan 408, I don't know if he'll last. There's a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of signs pointing to Jake Matthews not getting another contract signed here in Atlanta, or getting signed for cheap. If he hits the market, he hits the market, or maybe even getting traded. There's a lot of signs pointing to that. We've looked at a load of offensive tackles. I can go through that list if you guys want to. Terrell Crosby, Brandon Parker, Colton Miller, Harley Vaughn, Rick Leonard, Jamil Danby, and Corey Cunningham. And then there's a bunch of guards that could kick out to offensive tackle, and Brett Toth, Colby Grissett, Will Hernandez, Anthony Cole, Brandon Smith, Jeremy Hall, Mike McGlinchey, Matthew Gano, and Corey Helms, all guys that we took a look at over these last couple of weeks. We got about a week left. You never know what this Falcons team will do. If they feel like it's a once-in-a-generational, player, then they will go and trade up, and it doesn't matter how many spots. If they feel like they can get as much value out of the limit as they can squeeze, they will sit back or they will trade back. And that's what this Falcons team's all about. It's been all about, which is crazy. It's awesome. Let us make our way down here. Like the Falcons to stay at 26 for the top 3 defensive tackles or Evans and trade up into the second for Hill or Settle. Trading for an extra second will also be great in this draft. Not sure half of that will happen because I think that Evans might get consideration by the Patriots who are in front of us. And then most of the top 3 defensive tackles will be gone. I even think that Tevin Bryan goes earlier than expected. But I would love to have him on the team. But I think that Payne, Tevin, Vita Vea will all be gone by the time we draft. St. Brown sounds like a good complimentary wide receiver for Julio to me in the 2nd or 3rd round. We have gotten no talk about him over these last couple of weeks, and if we were interested, even slightly interested, we would have probably taken a look at him. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. That doesn't seem like it's going to be something. But if he does make it to us and we do draft him, that would be awesome. Who's your favorite linebacker the Falcons have worked out? Let me check out all the linebackers that the Falcons have worked out, and they've worked out quite a few linebackers. So here's the list. Brandon Smith from Penn State and Fred Warner from BYU. I love Fred Warner. Physical guy. Achina Nwosu as an outside linebacker from USC. Dorian Daniel, Junior Joseph. Jack Cincy, I like what he did from a couple of years ago, and I think that he could definitely get that fire back. But it would be 4th round for me to grab Jack Cincy from Wisconsin. Foye, and I'm going to murder this name, Ula Kuhn from Yale. Dion Pierre from Sanford. Patrick Fiti from Colgate. Rashad Evans. I love Rashad Evans. Grenard Avery and Layden Vander Esch are all Falcons linebackers. Or, well, one of them might be a linebacker for the Falcons in the future. All guys that we worked out, which I think all of those guys are solid. All of those guys are solid. If you looked at any of their tape, it's been a lot of fun to look at them. I haven't been doing as much collegiate tape as I should, but that's because we've looked at like 100-something guys, and there's no way that I was going to get all of that tape out. So I know it's going to be happening. The sleeper the sleeper left tackle Brandon Parker from North Carolina A&M. That would be an interesting pick. I'd like that. Can we get an ideal draft scenario from you? That's basically like giving you guys a mock draft, which I think is, I don't know. I think mocks are dumb, but I'm about to do a mock on Vach Lombardi's channel in the next couple days. So my ideal scenario, Vita Vea drops a few spots more than we thought he was. And if we have a good relationship with a team that's not going to completely frisk us, maybe we make that trade up about 6 spots or so. Or maybe even 8 to 9 spots. It would be a big jump. And I just go grab Vita Vea, man. Like, that would be the dream. And then maybe trade back in our 2nd round pick. Let a bunch of guys go for some 5th and 6th round picks and just, tidy up the rest of the draft with some guys that we can turn into champions at the next level or really solid pros. And that would be my ideal scenario, is to grab the big space eater dude that obviously worked well for us and Dontari Poe. Not the most ideal situation, but I think his speed off the ball really reminds me of Dontari Poe. There were a lot of times where there were things that Vita Vea needed to fix, but mostly him being dominant or taking on 2 or 3 guys should free up the rest of that defensive line and allow us to get to the quarterback. So that's at least my thoughts on that. What do you think of Tim Settle? I think he's a solid defensive tackle. I don't know if he's what we're looking for. And to be honest, with you, when I'm looking at these defensive tackles that we looked at, B.J. Hill, Justin Jones, Taven Bryan, R.J. McIntosh, McKay Murphy, Kensley Opara, Nathan Shepard, Vita Vea, Beelan Sparks, Deron Payne, PJ Hall, and Julian Taylor. There's a particular type of guy that we're trying to bring in. Payne, Hall, and Taylor all had 30 visits for us, whereas everybody else has just gotten a little kind of like nippet from us. Even Taven Bryan had just a nippet from us. We didn't even bring him in for a top 30 visit. I think that that is really interesting. I think this defensive tackle needs to have a lot of speed, needs to be able to eat a lot of space, and when we ask him to be in the nickel, he can rush the passer very effectively. And maybe that's one of actually these defensive ends that can trade in and be a defensive tackle. There's a possibility of that, but I just don't know where you look for that, you know? Yeah, I love Fred Warner as well, and Jack Shinsey they're both awesome. What do you think will happen with Duke Riley this year? I think that Duke Riley will get another chance at the will linebacker position. He will continue to groom at that position. We'll see what he's worth. He had some injuries. He had some hiccups. He was learning fine. I don't want to give up on Duke Riley yet, but getting a linebacker in this draft, especially in the second or third round, just another guy to push Duke. And I hate using that word, push, to push another player. I think that's a dumb analogy. But just another guy to bring in for competition and for that sake would be better for us in the long run than it would be for us to just stick with Duke and still have a very depleted linebacker core. We don't have a very deep depth at that position, and everyone here knows that. So at least that's my thought on Duke Riley this year. I think that he'll have an average year to above average year, depending on how seriously he takes his conditioning and work. Warner is perfect scheme fit for us. Michael Branner, I'm not sure, but I love what he does, and I want him on the team. I think that would be great. Vita Vea will be gone between 10 to 15, probably going to Washington at 13. You know, everybody has Washington taking him, but you know what, man? Washington could go so many different ways. Everybody's got this, oh, he's going to lock him. Nah, man. Don't lock anybody to any pick at any time, anytime soon. Until they make the pick, don't lock anybody anywhere, because Denver wants to trade down. Washington could move down. They could take anybody. Some say Dallas could take Vita Vea. Yeah. I'm seeing Vita Vea dropping all the way to 20. And I think a lot of teams really do see him as nothing more than a nose tackle. They go, at the next level, you're going to be a nose tackle. And 34 teams are looking at that and going, yeah. But there are guys with more versatility and are younger and have played more snaps. So there's always that chance. There's always that chance that a team overlooks what is quoted as the best defensive tackle in the class and goes a different direction, especially on who falls too. What if Minkah Fitzpatrick and Derwin James both fall straight into the teens at 13? What does Washington do now? Derwin James and Minkah Fitzpatrick are sitting there. Those are two great things for them. So, some would say, right? Some would say. Junior 91 says that I just tweeted you my latest mock, and I've changed my stance. I want to lead the first round with Leighton or with Evans, honestly. Man, I'm going to say it to everyone in here, and this will be my last thing that I talk about in here. If the Falcons went linebacker in the first round and Duke Riley had to be subjugated to dropping back to second string and learning with the squad as second string and trying to win, quote unquote, win his position back, and we left with Evans, or we left with Vander Esch, or we left with one of these other big-time linebackers in the first two rounds, then I'd have no problem with the Falcons and what they're doing in the later rounds, grabbing guys that are versatile and they're gangsters. You know, that's not even the best word for it. Just solid players. I want to see the Falcons walk away with a solid draft. You don't have to be world beaters, and please, by all means, don't get one guy and then everybody else is trash. Let's not have a 2012 draft, But let's go out there and play ball, okay? And whatever falls around us, we'll grab that. Just saying that if McGlinchey falls far enough to us, I would not be surprised if we pulled the trigger and were to grab an offensive lineman in the first round. I hate to say that. I don't like it. I don't want it. But there's enough talent in this draft that it wouldn't matter. It really wouldn't. It wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter one damn iota. I'm getting so many messages. I'm getting so many messages from people right now about what's going on with the schedule and doing Falcons drafts, all that stuff. That I don't know, man. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be crazy. Go check me out, UNGR_show on Twitter and on Instagram. You can see that on the screen right at this very moment. Go check out my my draft guide in the description of prospects the Atlanta Falcons have been looking at. Also, go check me out on mixer.com/GodyRamSam, where I'm going to be playing some video games. I'm going to go play some video games tonight. I think I'll go play some video games tonight. So go check me out on Mixer. I'm going to go play some Dark Souls for just a little while, invade some people's worlds, and spank them. You know, man, it's going to be interesting. It's got to be interesting over these next couple of weeks. But I'll be headed out to Dallas. Go check out my Patreon if you want to go support the channel and help the upload frequency of videos and get more videos out, because I have to do day job and I have water and electricity and all that stuff that I have to pay. And I can't do these videos all the time, but with your help, I can do more videos. So just saying, fam, $1 a month, $12 in an entire year. You know, that's less than probably your lunches, unless you bag your lunches, which good on you then. Good on you. But my name is Lieutenant Dan. This was Unintentional Grounding Live. Thank you for coming in, guys. Appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful night. And as I say on every one of my shows, you're listening to nothing but the facts and the truth. That's all I do. That's all I do. Facts and truth. Peace, hair grease, rise up, and y'all have a wonderful night. See you guys in the next couple of days for another breakdown or another live show. Talk about the draft and the things that are going on. Bye, guys.